maybe. Good evening and welcome, college football fans. I'm your host, Sam Gillette, and this is CFP Roundtable on a rectangle screen. I am joined today by the plucky comic relief, Pops. Pops, how you doing?
I'm good.
All right. And joining us from Big Ten Country is Todd Sandberg from Todd Talks College Football. Todd, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you, gentlemen, for having me on the show.
Awesome. It's great to have you here. Pop, what are you going to bring to the roundtable?
Well, if it were a pool table, I'd bring a cue stick. If it were the dinner table, I'd bring my appetite. If it was a ping pong table, I'd bring a paddle. Since it's this table, all I can bring is an uneducated opinion and a lot of goodwill and a plethora of good intentions.
Okay. Yeah, if you're new to my page and everything, I do have a few of them. I got TikToks and Facebooks and everything, and you'll see them scrolling up on the bottom of the screen there. If you would, go give me a like, follow, and share, and help grow so that this can reach the many people. Someone who isn't having trouble growing here over his last few months being on the social medias talking college football is Todd. Todd, you have a quickly growing audience. Tell us a little about your platform.
Well, you know, I've been a college football fan for over 30 years and actually been talking everybody's ear off about it for years. And I used to write a little blog, and everyone said, you need to get on, do videos and show your passion for it. So this year I had some free time in between jobs luckily for me, for the college football season. I was off and still off for the rest of the season. So I was like, this is the best time to start it. So I kind of got started on it, and it's been growing. So I'm pretty excited, and I appreciate everybody that likes and follows and gives me all those sometimes appropriate comments.
we know all about them sometimes appropriate. So your TikTok, whenever I found you, I think you had about 68 followers, and you were up over 100 a couple days ago when I looked. Where are you at now?
At 150. I put a little video out last Sunday, actually. It took me 3 hours to record a 3-minute video, and that video has taken off and over 10,000 views on between TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram. So
nice.
Been getting some nice follows off of that.
Good deal. I've been trying to get my following built up. Nick Wade from Bronco Nation Updates, who we are streaming into the Bronco Nation Updates group tonight. He really encouraged me to do this at the end of last season, and it's just kind of steadily grown from there. So, couple of amateurs trying to make a pro thing out of it.
Exactly. I just love the sport and want to have fun talking about it, right?
Yeah. So we're this brand new show. We're gonna talk about college football after the CFP rankings come out. We're gonna break it down into 4 segments. Who's the virtual locks? 1 loss versus 2 loss teams. Who's in? Who's out? The G5 bid. And Todd and I have some different brackets than what the CFP put out. So we're gonna let you dive into our mindset, and we're gonna show you what our ranking system would look like should the CFP grow a spine and do what the fans want. And then we'll look at the games to watch for the week that have the most implications for the CFP as well. So without any further ado, let's get into it. Todd, seeing how you're up there in Ohio State country, Ohio State, they struggled against Texas. They've only played 2 top 25 teams, and they still have to get past Michigan. You like them to be a lock?
Yeah, I think Ohio State and Indiana are pretty much a lock if you look at their schedule. Even if Ohio State somehow loses to Michigan, they'll still be in the Big Ten championship game. And I think both Ohio State and Indiana in that case are locks for the Big Ten. From there, it's a lot of questions.
Yeah. Pop, what do you think about Ohio State?
I agree with him. I think Ohio State and Indiana are their locks.
Yep. Nightmare scenario for you, Todd?
Well, to start off, it would be losing to Michigan again. That would be a nightmare scenario for me. But I don't really see a nightmare scenario happening with those 2 teams in terms of, like I said, even if Ohio State did lose to Michigan, I don't think it kicks them out by any means. And honestly, I think it might actually help them in a way because they could get a 5 seed. And I kind of still think that you almost want to play 4 games in the college football playoff instead of 3 because we saw what happened last year to those teams that sat. Yep. So I'm not saying it's going to happen this year, but it definitely didn't help those teams that sat for the 27 days or whatever it was.
Yeah. It didn't really because you give the bye week or the non-bye week offensive coordinator or defensive coordinators chances to scout and get stuff going in that 27 days. So they're able to make a more detailed game plan for that. So ups and downs.
Yep.
What would happen? Ohio State's looking ahead to Michigan. You got a UCLA team that's kind of up and down now that they've fired their coach and moved on. You got a Rutgers that could be a dark horse at any given week. What happens if Ohio State loses to one or the other of them and loses to Michigan, and you have a 2-loss Ohio State non-conference champion? Do they still get in?
That would be really. I think that would be much more challenging, and it's really gonna boil down to how this SEC plays out and where these teams are at the end of the year. And I still think there's a lot of shakeup that's going to come in the SEC. And do we have a 2-loss Ohio State get in over a 3-loss SEC team? It would be questioned, with what if that team is Texas and Ohio State already beat Texas,
Right.
So there's a lot of things to talk about in that. I don't see I think the biggest maybe obstacle could be UCLA, but they just scheduled that game for a night game here in the shoe, and we have very few night games now because we're always on big noon kickoff.
Right.
So it will be rocking in Columbus in a couple weeks and in the shoe at that night game for UCLA. So it's going to be definitely challenging for them.
Yeah. Pop, you have any final thoughts on Ohio State?
No, I don't think any of your doomsday scenarios are going to play out. It's not going to happen. One way or the other, they're going to be in there.
Yeah. Do you think Michigan goes 4 in a row?
No.
All right. You heard it here first.
So.
Michigan's been Day's thorn in his side, so we'll see if he can get over that hump this week. Or this year, I should say. Indiana, They struggled against Old Dominion and Iowa, but they beat Oregon by 10. And then they put UCLA back in its place a couple weeks ago. But their only top 25 win is Oregon. Are they a lock?
Well, yeah, but now they're actually Iowa's top 20 this year, this week,
Right.
because college football playoff put them in, which wasn't the case through the AP or the coaches poll up until this week. So I think Indiana is, if you look at their schedule that they still have, obviously go to Penn State this week. And, this is a game for Indiana, that this is one of the only games, I guess, Oregon, where the talent factor is going to be pretty equal here in this game. Penn State has not had a good year, but their talent is still as good, if not better, than Indiana. So we'll see. And they're playing over there in Happy Valley, which is never a tough place. Luckily for them, it's not a night game or a whiteout game. Yeah. And then they just got Wisconsin and Purdue afterwards. I mean, it would take a miracle or an act of God for Wisconsin or Purdue to beat them. So I think if they get through Penn State this week, they're pretty much going to get to the Big Ten championship game without any problem.
If Indiana blanks Wisconsin by more than 34 points, do you jump them over Ohio State?
Listen, I've been back and forth on that. I think, if you look at Indiana's win at Oregon, that was an incredibly solid win. But if we look at Oregon since that game and who Oregon's actually beat, I mean, they just don't have. They probably have the worst team in all the teams we're going to talk about today, and record against.
Yeah.
They just not played a lot of teams. They're going to Iowa this week. I hear that it's 50% chance of rain through the whole game. So how's that going to play out? I don't think Oregon's ever been to Kinnick Stadium, which is a very challenging place to play for anybody that's ever been there. So I could see Oregon. They also have to still play where they have Washington. A lot of people are discounting Ohio State's win against Washington, but Washington's a really good football team, and you guys are from up in that area of the country. And
yeah.
Washington's a very challenging place to go and win a football game. Whether they're really great or not, it's still a very, very challenging spot to win. So there could be some shakeup in there, but I just don't see Indiana letting the foot off the gas. Cignetti's just not going to do it. I just see him just pounding these next three teams as much as he can.
Yeah. Indiana loses to Ohio State in the conference championship game. A lot of people are saying they drop them down to number 5, and then James Madison continues to win out. They're saying that Cignetti current versus Cignetti former school, that would be the marquee matchup of the first round. What do you think?
Well, nothing against James Madison, but when you're looking at the American Conference or the Mountain West and right now in San Diego State, I don't see how James Madison can be in over these teams. But I think, to your question, I think that would be an incredibly fun matchup.
Yeah.
And the question would be, how would Cignetti go crazy and score 100 on him, or would he hold back?
Right.
So,
yeah.
But I think that would be definitely a made-for-TV thing there. But I just don't think that conference has put out, James Madison doesn't have the wins that these other teams have.
Yeah.
Or are going to have.
Top Indiana, they lost Penn State lost James Franklin. Couldn't ever win the big games was the big reason for his firing, and then not winning a Big Ten game kind of didn't help either. But they have Penn State this week. Then they have where Indiana has Penn State, Wisconsin, and then they go to Purdue. All very winnable games. Do you think Penn State's going to be their only stumbling block, or do you think they're going to be able to finish undefeated and we'll have 2 undefeated Big Ten teams in the conference championship?
For undisclosed reasons, I can't stand Penn State. I won't even entertain the thought that they've got a chance to win the game.
I like it, Pops.
So you have a fan. 3 poor decisions.
3 poor decisions there. Yeah, these guys love bourbon. I'll give them a little plug there. That 3 Poor Decisions, a great bourbon channel. They go out looking for specialty bourbons and they make videos about it. So good guys.
Nice. I've made 3 poor decisions myself, but it's spelled with another O. All right. Texas A&M. They had the last second win against Notre Dame, who comes in at number 10 this week on the CFP. but they struggled against Arkansas. They struggled against Auburn. They have remaining games at Missouri, which could be a stumbling block for them. South Carolina is always kind of that up in the air. Could show up, could not. And even if they do, they're probably not going to show up in the fourth quarter anyway. And then you got Cupcake Week versus Samford, and then goes to Texas. This Texas A&M, probably one of the most brutal remaining schedules minus Cupcake Week of the top four.
Yeah, I think Texas A&M, although I have them as a lock in the college football playoff right now, I could see them getting in as an undefeated team, and I could see them getting in as a 2-loss team. I really think that they're going to lose. I think they're going to lose one of these games between Missouri, South Carolina, but most likely I think it's going to come to Texas. And if they have to play Alabama in that SEC championship game, I'm going to put my money on Alabama just because the experience in playing in that game. And, this will be Texas A&M's, I think, first SEC championship game that I can remember. And Texas A&M always has this bad November, so we'll see if they can get through it.
All right.
I believe they're the weakest of the 4 locks.
I wouldn't say the weakest, maybe the weakest as far as
what they've got left in their schedule.
Of being the most vulnerable.
Yeah, I don't think they'll beat Texas. And like you say, whatever team shows up from SC, you get the good team, they're going to take them to the mat.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I do love Marcel. Marcel Reed.
Yeah. I'm assuming that this is you, Pop, since it says Sandberg in the name. Or you, Todd, not Pops.
Yeah.
What's your opinion on the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets?
Well, I really like where Georgia Tech's sitting right now, personally. I mean, even though they lost to North Carolina State last week, if you saw that game, North Carolina State just played out of their minds. Haynes King still had 511 total yards of offense in that game. They go on the road to BC this week, which Notre Dame showed us last week could be challenging. But I mean, BC should be no competition for them. They got Pitt after that, and Pitt's a pretty good football team recently. And then they play Georgia, obviously, in that final game. But I think they're definitely – I really feel comfortable about them beating BC and Pitt, which would get them to the championship game of the ACC. And then from there, it's just a matter of which one of these other 5 teams can survive their schedule and match up against them. Is it Virginia? Is it Pitt? Is it Louisville, SMU, or Duke? That could – still get to that ACC championship game. So, but I really like Georgia Tech, as you'll see in my bracket. I love them because I think they're going to beat Georgia. You heard it here first. It's probably the craziest take, but it's really not. If you look at the way they played last year to Georgia, Georgia's defense is not as good as it was last year. And Haynes King is the exact type of quarterback that could cause Georgia a lot of defensive struggles. No Georgia fan, self-respecting Georgia fan in the country would say Georgia's defense is a typical Georgia defense this year. So I think Georgia Tech I think they have a really good shot to get up. As we'll see here in the playoff predictor, I think they're my favorite team in the ACC right now.
Nice. Yeah. Fun fact: we live about 10 miles away from where Haynes King went to high school.
Oh, really?
Where his dad still coaches. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he is. I like to call him the toughest quarterback in college football because that kid is just absolutely he's just absolutely tough, man. He's just tough to beat. Oh.
All right. I'm just going to quickly, Jim, if you're still around, we're going to actually cover LSU Bama here in a little bit. I don't want to get too far ahead of us. But speaking of Alabama, though, they are the 4th lock that we're going to talk about today. They've got the most top 25 wins of the 4 locks, but they struggled a little against South Carolina. And will the loss to Florida State kind of derail them should they lose to one of their remaining games with LSU, Oklahoma, then Cupcake Week versus Eastern Illinois, and then Auburn?
Who's that question for?
For you, Todd.
Oh, I'm sorry. I tell you, this is going to sound crazy. I really like Alabama. I think they're the best team in the SEC, but I could see a scenario here that could potentially play out that could keep Alabama out of the playoffs altogether. And people are going to say I'm crazy, but Oklahoma has to go into Alabama. Oklahoma's defense is absolutely tremendous. Alabama's running game is subpar compared to what they've had in the past. And I think Oklahoma makes Alabama one-dimensional. And I think Oklahoma could pull an upset there. And if they do, Alabama would still get to the SEC championship game. I believe that would be the way it works out. And if Texas A&M beat Alabama in the SEC championship game, are we a guaranteed for sure a 3-loss Alabama team gets in the playoffs if that scenario happened? I'm not for sure.
If anything, like last week, they said that they taken conference championship games minimally, so
right,
they could still get in as a 3-loss.
They could, and it depends on who else is still remaining at the 2-loss spot, and how that would shake out.
Yep. We're going to circle back to Georgia Tech because Sandberg 1290 was actually talking to Pops. So.
Oh, okay. All right.
So, Pops, what's your take on Georgia Tech?
I believe Georgia Tech is always a bridesmaid, never a bride. I like them. I love to watch them play. I'll be rooting for them, but I don't have a real rosy confidence that they're going to be able to do everything you said they were going to do.
So, Pop, Alabama could realistically lose any 2 of the 4 remaining games, whether it be a combination of LSU, OU, LSU, Auburn, OU, Auburn. Eastern Illinois is pretty much a lock. So if they lose 2 of those 4 games, miss the conference championship game, do they still get in?
Well, for reasons that I won't disclose, I would hope not. I would much rather see who's outside the 12, Texas and Notre. I'd much rather watch Texas and Notre Dame play. I'm so sick of watching Alabama play. I can't stand myself.
All right. Well, you asked who's outside the top 12. We're going to get there, but we're going to move along to segment 2, 1-loss versus 2-loss teams. Who's in, who's out? Which 1-loss team is going to miss should they win out? Number 14, Virginia. Number 15, Louisville. Or Georgia Tech. Which, Pop, I'm going to let, since we're talking about Georgia Tech with you, always the bridesmaid, never the bride. I'm assuming you're going to go with Georgia Tech since their 12-point loss to NC State, their struggles against Wake Forest, and they tend to play to an opponent's level, not over, above, and exceeding them. Who's going?
Well, I never thought of all those reasons, but that'll work.
Okay.
Georgia Tech, I don't think is gonna. They'll be looking in from the outside.
Yeah. Virginia, they have a 4-point loss to NC State. They edged out Louisville on the road, struggled versus Washington State at home and UNC on the road. They've got their remaining games versus Wake Forest, who gave Georgia Tech fits. Then they go to Duke, which I think is their best chance to lose before wrapping up at home against Virginia Tech. Do you see Virginia going undefeated, Todd?
The way I've been watching them, I think they're going to lose that Duke game. I think Duke has been playing extremely well.
Yeah. And then Louisville, of course, their loss to Virginia at home, but they beat Miami, which really sent Miami kind of on a tailspin of sorts. They beat them on the road as well, so that makes it even worse. And then they got Cal, who's kind of been up and down. Sometimes they look great. Sometimes they look like they get shut out by San Diego State. Then they got Clemson, and then at SMU, which I think Clemson and SMU could very easily be losses, even with Clemson's recent slump. And then they finish up against Kentucky. Can you see Louisville going undefeated?
With that schedule, no. I think I agree with you. I think between Clemson and SMU, I don't know that Cal will. I was really high on Cal early in the season, Sagapalute, but being the quarterback, but he's really digressed recently. But I think between Clemson and SMU, I think they take a loss in one of those two games.
Yeah. SMU. I think you just like Cal because you like saying that quarterback's name.
Yes, yes.
So Pop agrees, thinking that SMU is going to be lost.
SMU is going to take them,
especially playing in Dallas. I can see that. So
yeah.
But yeah. So of the one-loss teams, which one's sitting out, or can two of them make it in?
Two for the ACC.
All of them being ACC teams. Yeah.
I think the way it's sitting right now, I just don't see two ACC teams getting in unless we have some major chaos in the SEC and somehow BYU loses to Texas Tech and Cincinnati, and somehow they lose to TCU or something like that. I just can't see two ACC teams making it this year. Especially the way the committee gave them the rankings,
Right. And we saw BYU absolutely fall apart at the end of last year too. They were set to be Big 12 champions, and they just let it all fall away.
Yes, they did.
So here's where we're going to talk about your outside looking in teams, Pop, that you were talking about. Which 2-loss team has the best chance to sneak in? You've got Texas, who's a 7-point loss to Ohio State, and their 8-point loss to Florida, but they beat OU. Struggled against Kentucky on the road. Kentucky kind of has that little tricky nature to them. They want to be good, but they find ways to not be. And then you had the massive fourth quarter rally to beat Mississippi State in overtime, and then they beat Vandy. They're like the bipolar team in college football.
Yes.
Do you think Texas has a chance to make it in? Should they find some way to win at Georgia and then at home versus Arkansas and A&M?
Yeah, if they win those three games, they're a lock for me to get in. Just because, look, I think it's going to be hard. If you look at the schedule in the SEC, I think Ole Miss is a guaranteed lock. We didn't talk about them in the lock part, but their schedule just almost. I mean, Citadel, Florida, and Mississippi State. I know the Bulldog game is a rivalry game, but I think Ole Miss is in for sure. And honestly, for Ole Miss, I think it's great that they don't have to play in the SEC championship game. Like, that's the last thing they want. They just want to get to that, be 11-1 and sitting there, let everybody else beat each other up in the SEC championship game. I think if Texas wins those games, I think they're a lock. And honestly, I think if Oklahoma wins those games, I think they're a lock. To get both of those teams to get in, and that would drive SEC fans crazy if somehow, an Alabama or Georgia was out, but a Texas and Oklahoma was in. I like Texas if they can. They got to win at Georgia, so we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, and you brought up Ole Miss, and currently the CFP has them ranked at number 6, playing Virginia. So as the ACC champion, and they don't have a second ACC team in there, so. And I kind of preserved my locks for the top 4 this week, because if we want to do this again next week, we got to have somebody else to talk about.
Exactly.
we can't regurgitate the same thing week in and week out.
Yeah, that's true.
Then we'd be CNN.
Yeah, we don't want that. Not with those ratings. Not with those ratings.
So moving on to the second 2-loss team, you've got OU, who had the 17-point loss in the Red River rivalry, and then their 8-point loss to Ole Miss, but they beat Michigan and Tennessee. They didn't really have any struggles against lesser opponents this year either. Pop, they have games at Alabama and then home versus Mizzou and LSU. Can OU run the table and make a claim to a CFP spot?
No. I don't think they'll I think Mizzou might be one of their little downfalls, and I don't see them getting past Alabama. As much as I don't want Alabama to be in there, I just don't see it happening.
Yeah. Todd?
Well, the one thing I like about Oklahoma and Texas next week is they're both going to be coming off of byes. They're both going on the road to Alabama and Georgia, but Alabama plays a very challenging. Listen, we can say what we want about LSU this year, but I think LSU is going to be. I think they're going to play their best game. Now, I don't know their best game's good enough to beat Alabama this year. So, LSU could beat Alabama up a little bit this week, and Alabama's run game isn't really, it's just not, it's just not there yet. And if Oklahoma can make you one-dimensional, I mean, look what they did to Tennessee. Tennessee was really moving the ball a lot in that first quarter, and then all of a sudden, Oklahoma just cringed down and forced them to turn the ball over. And once you start turning the ball over, it's hard to win. So I like Oklahoma's chances to play a very competitive game with Alabama. Can they win? That's another story.
Yeah. Talking Ole Miss, does Lane Kiffin make the jump, and where to? You have so many prestigious programs open right now.
I think he makes the jump to Florida personally. I can't see him going to LSU. I just don't think he fits the culture at LSU that well. And as much as Ole Miss is been playing well with him there, I mean, Ole Miss just isn't a national championship contending program in the sense that Florida could be or get back to being. So I really like him going to Florida myself.
Yeah, speaking of Florida, I was really disappointed with them this year. Lagway just did not pan out to be the quarterback everyone thought he was going to be.
No, they're going to cost me a 6-game parlay that I had over 7.5 on them this year, and I got everybody else's already hit, and they're the team that's killing me.
Oh man,
I know. I really thought that was a catch last week at Georgia. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was like,
Everyone did.
I need that win.
The only people that didn't think it was a catch was the officials.
Yeah, you're right about that, and the Georgia fans.
Yeah,
Don't forget about them.
Well, a honest Georgia fan, which let's be honest, there's not a lot of them since Kirby Smart left. Yeah. Not Kirby Smart, Mark Richt.
Yeah, Mark Richt. Yeah.
There's not an honest Georgia fan since Rick left, but that was the biggest snafu one of the biggest snafus this year. They've been many. So we've talked about Texas, we've talked about Oklahoma, and as you can see on the CFP playoff brackets and the CFP rankings, both schools are left on the outside looking in for Virginia. And that third school is Utah, that ranks higher than Virginia and left on the outside looking in. They had a tough loss to Texas Tech by 24 points. Then they only lost to BYU by 3. They haven't struggled against. They've won the games that they're supposed to win in the ways they were supposed to win them. They've got Baylor, Kansas State, and Kansas next on their schedule. Can Utah position themselves to make it should the Oregon or Texas Tech or BYU falter, or is their loss to Texas Tech just kind of too bad to redeem themselves?
I don't think that they can. I mean, we'd have to have the only way that I think that they could get into the college football playoff now is if BYU ended up getting beat by Texas Tech and Cincinnati. And Cincinnati would then need to be beat by either Arizona or TCU in that instance. So it's a tall order for Utah, in my opinion, to get there right now as we're looking at it today.
Yeah. In my opinion, you got to have 3 people fall off because you've got Texas and Oklahoma right there knocking at the door too.
Yeah.
And I don't care who you are, the SEC bias is real. And they're going to take a 2-loss SEC team over a 2-loss Utah team, no matter how they win their last games.
Exactly. I agree 100% on that. Yeah. The best thing Utah could hope for is the absolute chaos scenario in the SEC, where you have, multiple losses by Georgia and Alabama, and you get a bunch of 3-loss teams in there. And then it's a question of 2-loss versus 3-loss, Big 12 versus SEC. But I'm like you. I think the committee will give the benefit of the doubt to the SEC team every time in that scenario.
Yeah. Pop, you love everything Utah. Maybe not. See, look, I'm the plucky comic relief.
It was good skiing. I used snow skiing in Utah. That was good. I don't think I would hate to see a scenario where Utah backdoored its way into the playoffs, because it would not be an entertaining game to watch. So I don't think all of that doomsday scenario is going to pan out anyway. But I think Texas and Oklahoma, either of those two are going to give you a much more entertaining and competitive game to watch.
Well, and I think if you're the Big 12 this week, I mean, you want to get the two teams in the playoffs. That would be your goal. Because remember, at the beginning of the season, no one thought the Big 12 could have two teams into the college football playoff this year. But if you can get two Big 12 teams, since it doesn't look like they're going to put two ACC teams in, so I really think they need Texas Tech to beat BYU this week, and I really think that they want BYU to beat Texas Tech in the Big 12 championship game, so then you could end up getting both those teams in, Texas Tech with 2 losses and BYU with 1 at that point. So if I'm the Big 12 and I want to get 2 teams in, that's kind of what I'm rooting for.
Yeah. Tyler Butterfield, I love that Rose Bowl game against them Buckeyes.
Oh, that was the game where Jackson Smith and Jimbo went for, 350 yards receiving or something like that against Utah. What was that, 2019, I think?
So the success story that started last year and is really carried over this year, I wish Pavia had a few more years of eligibility because he's fun to watch.
He'd be 30 then.
Yeah. Vanderbilt lost to Bama by 16 and then Texas by 3. No struggles against lesser opponents. They've got Auburn, Kentucky, at Tennessee remaining. They don't have a cupcake remaining on their schedule unless you count Kentucky or Auburn as one. Does Vanderbilt have any chance at making a CFP should mayhem ensue?
Yeah, I think Vanderbilt is sitting in a spot that they could definitely get in. If they could beat Tennessee, now I would tell you, I'm not a Tennessee fan, but if Tennessee loses that game to Vanderbilt, what's his name is gone in that. What's our coach's name again? It slipped my Heupel.
Yeah.
I don't think Tennessee can afford to lose that game to Vanderbilt. If they do, and Vanderbilt gets in the playoffs, it's going to be a real problem down in Knoxville. I can promise you that. But yeah, I think Vanderbilt could get in, and I really think they're going to be the teams that are rooting for Texas and Oklahoma next week to beat Alabama and Georgia. Because if you look at the schedule like we did, I think if Texas and Oklahoma win, Texas and Oklahoma have the best chance to lose another game then, because like you said, Oklahoma plays Missouri, Texas plays Texas A&M. So if Vanderbilt finishes the season at 10-2, I really think that they definitely have a legitimate shot to get in.
Could they jump Louisville and Utah and maybe even Virginia should either one of those falter?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Pavia petitioned the NCAA to get his another year of eligibility in, won it, came back, success all over the field. What do you think happens to Vandy if once Pavia is out of the picture? Do you think they're able to regroup and reload, or do you think it's going to go back to same old Vandy?
I think it would be a lot like losing an Ashton Ginty.
Fair enough. And we all see how that happened.
Good comparison, Pops.
Yeah. The final 2-loss team, Miami lost to Louisville by 3 at home. They lost to SMU by 6 in overtime. They beat Notre Dame by 3. Their remaining games, Syracuse, NC State, who just beat Georgia Tech, at Virginia Tech, and then at Pitt, who's really coming on. What there's a lot there for Miami, a lot of good that can come and a lot of bad that can come. Is it too late to turn their season around and get them into the CFP?
I think the only way that they would – I don't think they would get in because I don't think they can get to the ACC championship game unless just some real chaos happens here between some of these other teams. Because if you think about it, Pitt plays Georgia Tech, then they play Miami. They play Miami, the weekend after Thanksgiving?
Last game of the year.
In Pitt, right?
Yeah.
So it's going to be, colder than normal for for Miami players to function in. I don't know what the temperature will be, but I can guarantee it'll be under 50 or under 40. So I just don't see Miami being able to go on the road and beat Pitt. In the climate, we've all seen Miami when it's cold outside, they shiver up, and that speed slows way down.
Yeah. It's definitely not that national championship team that if their offense never scored I believe if their offense never scored a touchdown, they still would have finished 8-4.
Yes.
Yeah.
The good old days of Miami.
Yeah. Well, we're going to take a quick break. Pop has other engagements that he's going to go and run off to. We're going to take a quick 30-second break. Let him run off and do his thing. When we come back, we're going to get into the G5, who gets the G5 nod, and then we're going to talk about our brackets and the games to watch this week. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Cool. Good timing.
All right. And we're back.
All right.
Let's see. Let's get stuff back up here. All right. Oh. So I ran out of time on being able to. Come on. There we go. On getting my countdown videos or break videos put together.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So little bit of a learning curve here, but we're getting through it. First show, jitters. We did have a comment. Let you go ahead and field this one. Brian Hartline to Penn State. Do you agree?
I would hate to see that as a Buckeye fan. I mean, I think potentially that would be a good landing spot for Brian Hartline. Brian Hartline's never been a head coach before at any level. That's a pretty big job to be your first job. Even Ryan Day here, when he came into Ohio State, he had those 3 games to be the head coach while Urban Meyer was suspended. Brian Hartline's never done that, so I think it'd be a great hire for Penn State. It might just be a little bit of a reach to say Penn State's going to be your first head coaching position, because the expectations that they're doing a giant remodel on their stadium. They're paying all this money to James Franklin. They do not have time to hire a coach who has any type of learning curve.
Right.
And I just again, I love Brian Hartline, but I think there might be a better opportunity for someone with a little bit more experience to take that position.
Yeah, especially whenever you consider that what they did to James Franklin after he really put Penn State back on a national stage, and then letting him go like that for basically one bad season. I understand why they did it. They're tired of not losing the big games, but if you're going to let that high caliber of a coach go before the end of the season, you're not going to bring in somebody who isn't already proven.
Right. Yeah, I agree with you 100% on that.
All right. So the G5, there's a few different G5 schools that we're going to talk about today. James Madison, we alluded to earlier today. Their 14-point loss to Louisville, but they struggled at Georgia State and at home versus Louisiana, the Raging Cajuns. They've got Marshall, which some are trying to get out there, the battle for the gavel. So they go to Marshall for that. And then you got App State, Washington State, and Coastal Carolina for James Madison. Even if they go undefeated, you've alluded that you don't think that they're in. I think that they could be, should the AAC kind of collapse on itself, like we're starting to see happen.
Yeah, well, everybody in the ACC, outside of North Texas, they play each other. Like Navy plays Memphis and USF, and Memphis plays Tulane and Navy, and Tulane plays Memphis. So some of these teams they have to lose because they're playing each other. I think North Texas has the best chance to get through this unscathed. They play UAB, Rice, and Temple. So I think they could definitely get to the American Conference Championship game, and then it's just from there. I mean, I root for Navy because Blake Horvath is right here from Hilliard, Ohio, where I'm at. Yeah. So I'm always rooting for him. But the way that North Texas beat Navy down last week, I think Navy can split with Memphis and USF, and then how do we get who's on the other side of that championship game with North Texas at that point? Could it be USF, Tulane, Memphis? I'm not 100% sure. But I really think North Texas, man, they look really good. If you watched them last week, and Navy's defense isn't great, but North Texas' running game is really, really challenging to play against.
North Texas lost to USF at home by 27. Do you think a rematch against USF will it have that different outcome? I know there was what was it, 2 or 3 different turnovers right there in USF territory, if I remember right.
Yeah.
So do you see a different outcome should North Texas and USF meet in the AAC championship game?
I really do think that North Texas will play that game much tighter than the first game was.
Yeah.
Whether they can win it or not is still to be seen. But I really liked what I saw last week out of them, and we'll find out. But I think this conference may just almost play themselves out of it, unless like a team like North Texas can get through and get in. Because even if you win the championship in that conference, doesn't guarantee you a playoff spot.
Right.
And then you have San Diego State, who matches up against your Broncos in a few weeks. And if San Diego State can win that game, and they end up at 11-1, and I don't know who they would play. Who would they play in the championship game? I guess it depends on how it's all. I think
that would put 2 or 3. If San Diego State beats Boise State next week, I believe that puts 2 or 3 2-loss teams. And I'd have to go look at the tiebreakers and see who won against who. So I don't have that information readily available. But I do have San Diego State. They lost to Washington State by 23, which kind of a fluke. I don't know if they were just overlooking them or what the deal was with that, because everyone just kind of scratched their head when they saw that. Much like everyone scratched their head when they saw 30-7 against Fresno State for Boise State. So Stony Brook, they blanked. Cal, they blanked. Fresno State, they blanked, and they only allowed Northern Illinois to put up 3 points on them. San Diego State has the best defense, in my opinion, in the remaining group of 5, whether or not they can get the offense to go along with it. They play at Hawaii. Then they're home against Boise State and San Jose State before finishing up against New Mexico, who just handed UNLV another loss, and is a really tricky team to play if you're not careful.
Mm-hmm.
Can San Diego State somehow win out? And because of their defense and the shutouts, will that be enough to overshadow the Washington State loss and put them into the CFP over a 1 or 2 loss AAC champion?
I think if they could end up at the 12-1 after the championship game, and the American Conference champion has 2 losses at that point, yes, I think they could. The problem with San Diego State is you just can't find them anywhere. No one's watching them because they're just hard to find. I've watched Boise State. I've watched New Mexico a couple times. I've watched UNLV, but I've only watched one San Diego State game, and that was against Cal. And I was really impressed with the way they beat Cal down. I thought Cal was really on an upswing there. Then they get shut out. But just not many people are able to see San Diego State right now, so they're not really getting any props anywhere just because they're hard to find to watch.
Yeah, San Diego State kind of reminds me of they're as the Oregon of the G5, because Oregon's really flying under the radar on many people. I mean, you don't hear them talked about very much lately. And that was the case last year too. They were number one for most of the year, and they were hardly ever talked about. Everything was Ohio State and Alabama and the SEC and stuff, and the Oregon just kind of flew under the radar to that number one ranking. Do you
Yeah.
agree? Is that kind of the SDSU is the Oregon of the G5?
Yeah, right now it's just no one's talking about them, and honestly, to be honest with you, since that Cal game, I really hadn't been keeping up. I looked at the standings a few weeks ago, and I'm like, holy crap, man, they only got the one loss still.
Yeah.
But it's just hard to watch them, and I watch a ton of college football, and it just haven't been on to see them. So now I'm sure we'll see them against Hawaii at midnight or whenever, if they're on the road at Hawaii. But
right.
But yeah, it's really going to come down to, I think, the American Conference and San Diego State. And if all else fails, then somehow James Madison will sneak in there. But I wouldn't give James Madison the head over San Diego State. I just think the Mountain West is just so much tougher week in and week out than what is James Madison in? Is it Conference USA?
No, Sun Belt.
Sun Belt, yeah.
Yeah. My friends over at the Sun Belt Syndicate would hang me alive if I forgot that.
Right, exactly.
But I actually, and we'll see it a little bit later, James Madison in my rankings is actually the top-rated G5 school. But we'll get into that a little bit later.
Yeah, I can see that.
USF, this is Pops. He let me know before he left. This is his favorite to be the G5. Probably because they beat Boise State, and he wants someone who beat Boise State to be the G5 rep, and not San Diego State because he doesn't like them either. But they lost to Miami by 37 after beating Boise State and Florida. Then they lost to Memphis by 3. They got UTSA, who just took down Tulane, at Navy, at UAB, who beat Memphis, and then home against Rice.
Mm-hmm.
Can USF run the table and claim that spot?
Yeah, I think they can for sure. I think UTSF or USF, University of Texas San Antonio.
Yeah,
they're a very challenging team to play, but they're more challenging to play at their home than they are on the road.
Right.
So I think they can win that game. I think they can beat Navy. I'll be rooting for Navy, but I do. And UAB, although they had that nice win after they fired their coach a couple weeks ago in Rice, I just don't think we'll be able to handle USF. So I like USF to get at least almost, if not for sure, to the American Championship game.
Yeah. And the final American team we're going to talk about with their 1-point win over Arkansas is Memphis. They lost to UAB by 7 that we talked about. They got wins over USF as well. They've got Tulane, ECU, and Navy left on the schedule. Does Memphis have the toughest remaining G5 schedule?
Yeah and no. I mean, Navy still has to play Notre Dame, Memphis, and USF. So, I mean, those 3 teams are all like right in that mix. Like who's going to beat who here? Navy or Memphis, and then USF. I kind of think Navy might be able to split those games with Memphis and USF. It just depends on how does that break down? Who do they split with? And then that team, whoever beats Navy is probably going to get in, and more than likely, in my opinion, against North Texas. But we still have a Tulane team that could be very tricky tomorrow against Memphis. We'll see how that turns out. And Tulane's not out of this at 3-1 in conference either. And honestly, neither is East Carolina, but they got the 3 losses overall, and they still play Memphis too. So it could be a tricky finish off here for this conference.
Yeah. And to our viewers, if you're able to, go ahead and leave us a comment. Let us know which G5's team you think is going to get that G5 spot. And then my final question, Todd, what scenario out there would you have to see 2 G5 schools into the CFP?
I would think we'd have to have chaos in the ACC to where, somehow Georgia Tech lost to Pitt and maybe to Georgia. Pitt loses to Notre Dame and Miami. I think if we could get a lot of chaos, like Virginia somehow loses to Wake Forest, I think there's enough disrespect for the ACC that if these teams kind of fall apart going in, that they could leave, because remember, they're not guaranteed a playoff spot, the champion. It's just a group of 5 rated highest teams. So I could see a scenario where the ACC goes into complete chaos and a team like maybe San Diego State and James Madison both get in the way, if the American Conference kind of beats each other up here over the way. So that would be the only way I could see 2 G5 teams getting in right now. But the way this season's been going, anything can happen.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to go over some brackets here. First, add that to the stage. So if you follow me, you know that I put out a Prove It poll every week, and it's basically a series of metrics that I use to kind of evaluate on-field performance and get away from the pageantry and the biasness of the name brand teams. So in my rankings, there's actually between Indiana and Notre Dame, there is less than 1/100th of a point difference between the top 10. So literally, you have a bad offensive game, you're going to drop in the rankings. You have a bad defensive game, you're going to drop in the rankings. My rankings are made to get the best teams, the best consistent teams out there, and that's what you see. So I've got Indiana, Ohio State, Oregon, and Texas A&M would be my top 4, where the AP would have Ohio State, Indiana, A&M, and Alabama, as well as the CFP. So it gets a little murky at times, where you see number 22, James Madison, where the AP has Memphis being the top tier team, G5 team. It gets a little murky at times, and sometimes I have to scratch my head about my rankings, but I'm trusting the process. We're going to see where it takes us. What stands out to you the most, Todd, about my rankings versus the other 2?
Are your rankings on the screen?
They are. They're right in the middle.
Oh, I'm missing them there. I can't see them.
Oh. Well, okay then.
I can see the championship trophy, but I can't see the ranking.
Well, that's interesting.
I don't know, maybe.
I do not know how to fix that. Let me see. Let me try. Can you see it now?
No.
No?
No.
Nope. Good times. Let's see. Let me.
So you had Ohio State, Indiana, Oregon, and Texas A&M as the top 4 seeds?
Yes. Indiana, perfect. Ohio State, Oregon, Texas A&M.
Oh, man, I'd have a problem. I don't think there's going to be 3 Big Ten teams in the top 4. Yeah. I just don't. I don't think the committee will do that. I don't think. Although Oregon's definitely, listen, they're going to go out if they beat, what they got, Iowa, Minnesota, who's still a team with. Oh, there we go. I can see it now. Minnesota's got a winning record, but they haven't been playing winning football recently. And then they got USC and at Washington. I really think Oregon's going to lose another game here. I don't think they're going to be able to get through this one loss, personally. I just have a hard time thinking that the College Football Playoff Committee is going to put 3 Big Ten teams as 1, 2, and 3. I don't. As a Big Ten fan, I just don't see that. But it could happen. It depends on what happens in the chaos of the SEC for sure. I really like Alabama over Texas A&M in the SEC championship game myself. The question is, could it be Indiana, Ohio State, Alabama, and Texas A&M as those 4 teams, and the 2 loss? I think that's more likely, personally. But the beauty thing about what we're talking about now is it's definitely going to change next week, Sam.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Right. And that's another thing I forgot to mention about my poll is it takes what's happened on the field. It does not look forward to who's the best matchup going to be at the end of the year.
Yeah.
You had Sandberg 1290. Told you to just get on your phone, open YouTube, and look at the rankings.
Oh. My son's a helper out there.
Yeah, so if you want to go that route, I don't know what the deal is with the media, why you're not seeing it. It could just be a setting.
It came up when you did it there.
Oh,
So.
I did it as an overlay.
Okay.
If your screen is maybe minimized or you don't have a full screen, it may chop that part out. I'm not 100% sure though.
I will get that. I will get those rankings up, my young son there. All right, where are we at?
Bronco Nation updates.
No, I mean where we're at in the conversation while I'm working on that.
Oh, gotcha. So yeah, that's my ranking. Kind of give you guys a view inside my thinking on things. I don't like beauty contests. I don't like popularity contests when it comes to football. I want results played on the field, and going from there.
Yeah, I like your rankings. I mean, Utah I think might be a little high right now, but Utah's a funny team, man. No one wants to go play Utah. I can promise you that. No one's looking to go jump on a big old jet airliner and fly out to Salt Lake City and play that football team. There's nobody looking to do that.
Yeah. So we take a look at there it is. Taking a look at my bracket. I've got, of course, Indiana, Ohio State, Oregon, Texas A&M. I got James Madison with Texas Tech, Georgia, and Utah. That could be a fun game, especially Georgia going to Utah. That'd be a matchup I'd probably sit down and watch, because Georgia in cold weather versus Utah with their defense. That could be an interesting one. Virginia over Virginia and Alabama, and then Notre Dame and BYU. I think everybody in the country pretty much has Notre Dame and BYU at that 10-7 spot.
Yeah, and that would be that'd be the Catholics vs. the Mormons there in Utah would be quite the storyline for sure.
Right. And you got two high-powered offenses with James Madison and Texas Tech. Would Texas Tech's defense prove to be too high-powered for them? Those some good storylines to look forward to in these rankings. So I part of me hopes it plays out like this, but the other part of me knows the CFP isn't going to pay too much attention to these rankings and say, oh yeah, hey, let's do that. But it's still fun to speculate.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Todd, you did your bracket as well.
Yeah, let's get that on there. People are going to be surprised about my number 4 team in my bracket, I'm sure.
There it is. All right. So you've got why don't you run us through your bracket?
Yeah, so I have Ohio State and Indiana at 1 and 3. I think Ohio State beats Indiana in the Big Ten championship game, but Indiana doesn't fall further than 3 there. I got Alabama winning the SEC championship game, coming in at number 2. And like I said, I really think Texas A&M is going to get 2 losses here between the Missouri or Texas, and then in the SEC championship game to Alabama. So if that's the case, Ole Miss is sitting there in a great spot with 1 loss at 11-1 to jump right up into number 4. I think that's a really, really logical thing that could occur. Because again, like we talked about earlier, I have Georgia I have Georgia losing one of these 2 games, either Texas or Georgia Tech, potentially both. They could lose. I got Georgia Tech moving here to number 5. And the reason I have that is because I have Georgia Tech beating Georgia. And I think the street cred for the ACC will go up a little bit when Georgia Tech, I know Pops doesn't like them in this spot, but if they beat Pitt and Georgia in back-to-back weeks, and then whoever it is in the ACC championship game, I think the street credit for Georgia Tech will run up. And they did that 5 spot. They'll be playing North Texas. In my poll right now, I just think North Texas has the easiest path to get to the American championship game. I got a really great matchup at 8 and 9 with Oregon and Georgia. Oregon on the road at Georgia, I think would be tremendous TV. 11 and 6, I got Texas A&M after losing those 2 games at the end of the season, falling to 6 and playing Texas Tech. That would be, they'd have to shut the whole state of Texas down for that game.
Yeah.
And then we got Notre Dame, like you did, at Utah, which I just think would be just tremendous TV. Dick Fadley says BYU is overrated. We'll find out if that's the case there. Yeah, and I think this is really made for some, like I said, Notre Dame and BYU, Texas Tech and Texas A&M, and Oregon and Georgia make for a tremendous Saturday slate of games. And then that Friday night game would be that Georgia Tech and North Texas. And honestly, that game, that could be the one game that we could see a 12 beat a 5, because I don't know that Georgia Tech can stop North Texas's running game, but could North Texas stop Georgia Tech? That would be a great game, I think.
Yeah.
But I think a 12 could win that game right there in that spot if Georgia Tech gets to 5.
I don't care what the over could be 120, and I'd probably still take it.
Yeah, exactly. And and the other thing, if you look at my bracket, if you look down at these teams, again, the number 1 seed, much like Oregon last year, if this bracket came to play, would you want to be the number 1 seed knowing that you're going to have to play the winner of the Georgia-Oregon game in the first round of the college football playoff?
Right.
Like, that would be a very challenging scenario for anybody sitting at the 1 seed.
It's almost like they should flip the 12-5 and the 9-8 games and then the 11-6 and the 10-7 games, because really when you're looking at the rankings, they're going down in order. So, I mean, outside of Georgia Tech getting a loss and jumping down a little bit further and then having like an A&M take their spot there, I mean, if you can't get one of those top 5 teams that have been top 5 the entire year playing in that spot, then you really don't have an accurate representation of that side of the bracket.
Yeah, and that 8-9 spot, it's last year it went to Ohio State and Tennessee, and the way I got it, it's going to Oregon and Georgia. It almost feels like it's almost always set up to be like the 3rd or 4th best team in those 2 conferences, and those are going to be real challenging teams to play.
Yeah, and let's see. I'm trying to think back to last year. I don't think the 9-8 game was anybody that played in the conference championship game either. So they had an extra week even still to heal up and get ready to go. So where the conference champion Oregon wasn't conference. I got to go back.
Oregon was the conference championship number 1 seed, and Ohio State and Tennessee was the 8-9 seed. Yeah. Right.
So, and then Oregon beat Ohio State, correct?
Oregon beat Ohio State in the regular season.
Right. Yeah.
And then we beat them in the Rose Bowl.
Right. There we go. So, yeah. I mean, I wonder if they play those to get those matchups, those rematch matchups. And I know the CFP says that they don't, but you got to know that it's in the back of their head. Oh, this is going to make good TV in the top 4.
Yeah. And if you look at my bracket, like, let's say Notre Dame won that game against BYU, which not a guarantee, but let's say they did. They'd be going up against Alabama. That's going to be made for ESPN TV. Let's say Texas A&M goes to, plays Indiana. That would be, again, really, Georgia or Oregon playing Ohio State. And then Ole Miss playing, let's say, a Georgia Tech, probably be the least of the 4 games in terms of viewership-wise, but still a really incredible football game if you're a college football fan.
Yeah.
And it's really set up, to get those. I hate to say it this way, but it's almost like they're trying to set it up to where they either get those Big Ten or SEC matchups in those semifinal games like we had last year, or Notre Dame. So and I really think that's kind of why I'm laying it out this way. I looked at it multiple different ways and was like, look, they're going to want these TV matchups, and 2 Texas teams playing each other is going to give them that. Georgia and Oregon playing. I don't think Oregon's ever been to Georgia, at least in my lifetime. So,
Yeah.
those would be some real challenging football games and great TV for us, college football fans.
Looking at the actual CFP rankings now, they have much like the AP poll. They've got Ohio State 1, Indiana 2, Texas A&M 3, and Alabama 4. I can't disagree with that. All 4 of them schools are hot right now. I don't think it's going to stay like that through the rest of the season, though.
Well, I would definitely change Alabama and Texas A&M in those 2 spots. I had them at Alabama 3, Texas A&M 4. Look, Texas A&M fans can say what they want. They played the weakest SEC schedule in the SEC, and Alabama's played the toughest SEC schedule they do have the loss to Florida State, but they've looked like a much different team there. So I personally, I would have Alabama 3 and Texas A&M 4. But you really can't argue. People would argue they should have Indiana 1 and Ohio State 2. So whatever. This is all going to work itself out, like you said, Sam.
Yeah. And to be the devil's advocate here, the SEC is the best conference from top to bottom, so there shouldn't be a weakest schedule in the SEC for Texas A&M, right?
Well, you wouldn't think that, but obviously LSU and the Gators have faltered tremendously. Yeah, looking at the beginning of the season. But you could say that same thing like Ohio State. They're like, oh, well, Ohio State's schedule's not good. Well, Penn State was supposed to be a top 1 or 2 team when they came in here last week, and they didn't hold up their end of the bargain. Illinois was supposed to be a really good football team this year, and they are at 6-3. I mean, their losses to Ohio State and Washington on the road and to Indiana. The problem is they got blasted by Indiana so bad that nobody can overlook it, and they think they're a bad team. But I'll tell you what, I'd put Illinois on the field with Missouri or, Vanderbilt or even Ole Miss. And I think that the outcome might not be what people think it would be.
Yeah. CFP has Memphis as the 12 spot, even after their loss to UAB.
Yep.
You see that, they were able to overlook that loss, but I don't know that I could.
And again, at this point, that whole conference is that's a really competitive conference. And it's all going to play itself out. I could see them every week that we go into this, it's, a different team in that spot for the American Conference. Who's the best team this week, We're going to find out. Actually, it probably just started. That Thursday night game is what's that?
USF and UTSA. Yeah.
Yeah. USF or
2:07 to go in the first. USF 14, UTSA 3, and UTSA has the ball.
Okay. Yeah, UTSA is a much different team on the road than they are at home. They're very challenging. I don't think that coach has ever lost a home game. That new coach. So that's a coach right there that some of these teams should be looking at that need coaches.
Yeah.
Them and the USF coach, Alex Grolshier from Columbus, Buckeye, former Buckeye. He's building a program down there. And honestly, if I was Penn State, that's the coach I'd be going after.
Yeah. Another fun fact, UTSA's coach, he's also a former Buckeye.
Yes.
Gilmer Buckeye here in Gilmer, Texas. My nephews actually go to the school that he coached. So before going to UTSA. So
there's been a lot of good football players come out of that school in Texas.
Just kind of give an update. I'm going to give the Sun Belt Conference a quick shout out here. The Deeper Than Hate game. Georgia Southern's up 9-0 on App State. So 7 seconds to go in the first. Looks like Georgia Southern's about to kick the ball away. Okay.
All right.
Back to our regularly scheduled programming. What game, first round for the CFP, would you most sit down and watch versus least likely to sit down and watch?
Based on my rankings?
Based on the current CFP rankings.
Current rankings here?
Yeah.
Well, I'd watch them all because I'm a junkie to the extreme level. But I think the least entertaining game, the way that they've got them, would be the Memphis and Georgia game. I don't think Memphis can hang with Georgia. I know that they beat Arkansas earlier this year, but Georgia's a whole different level when it comes to offense and defensive lines, even in a down year like they are now. Well, in a year that's not the standard of Georgia. I don't want to say down year because Georgia fans will be cutting my head off. But in a year that's not the normal Georgia interior line play, I still think Georgia would have its way with Memphis in that spot personally.
Yeah.
The Ole Miss Virginia game, I think that could get out of control really quick. Virginia, they played 3 overtime games this year.
Yeah.
I like them. I love what they did to Florida State early in the season and winning that game. But man, they're just playing with borrowed time here, I think.
Yeah. I'd say the Virginia Ole Miss game on this schedule here is probably the one I'd be least likely to watch. I might tune into the scores, but the Mormons versus the Catholics, I'd probably tune into that one, especially being played in Utah just to see BYU beat on their home turf. It's always nice.
There you go. There you go. Is there a Boise BYU bias out there?
Yeah, everyone outside of BYU hates BYU. So
okay, gotcha. All right, makes sense.
I think that's true in the whole country. There's not a person out there that doesn't have any kind of ties to BYU that actually likes BYU.
Yeah, I'm really indifferent on it. They've had some really good coaches, Lavelle Edwards back in the day, and they've had a lot of good quarterbacks come out of there. So but BYU also beat my Buckeyes in 1984 when they captured that mythical national title they got out there.
Yeah. Well, shall we move on to the games of the week?
Absolutely. Some good games this weekend.
Yes, there is. So tonight we've already alluded to it, UTSA and USF. USF's a 13.5-point favorite. UTSA fresh off their beatdown of Tulane, who has BYU's old quarterback now.
Mm-hmm.
G5 implications. If USF loses this one, does that knock them out?
If they lose this game, yeah, I think it would knock them out. Considering the schedule what did that put them at? 2 losses in the conference.
Yeah, 3 losses overall.
They gotta hope that then Memphis loses to Tulane tomorrow night, and the Navy, right? Because Memphis beat USF.
Yeah.
So they would have to really rely on 2 losses from Memphis, and I don't know they're going to get that. So they definitely got to pull these games out if I'm USF.
Yeah. Can Tulane rebound tomorrow night? They play at Memphis, fresh off their loss to UTSA. Can they get a rebound and come out firing? Maybe they were overlooking UTSA with Memphis on the schedule. Memphis only a 3.5-point favorite as well. So can it happen?
I'm really going to be interested and see who drops out there for the quarterback position, because we had the quarterback change last week, and so I'll be interested to see. Yeah, I think Tulane can. I think Tulane could beat anybody they wanted to beat. It just depends on how they come out. They really played terribly last week, and UTSA took every mistake Tulane made. The Roadrunners took advantage of it.
Yeah. Can Tulane recover and make a run for the G5 spot, or is the UTSA loss too fresh for the CFP?
I don't think it'll be too fresh if they can win the conference. If they can get to the playoff or to the championship game and win it, I think there's a lot to be. They still have 4 games, so that means they would beat Memphis maybe twice in that, depending on how all this shakes out. So yeah, I think they would get in if they win the conference championship.
Moving on to Saturday, we got number 2 Indiana undefeated at Penn State. Indiana's a 14.5-point favorite. start of the year, everyone thought this was going to be a top 5 matchup, at minimum a top 10 matchup. Then we all see how Penn State fell apart. Could this still be a stumbling block for Indiana?
Yes, I think it definitely could be a stumbling block for Indiana. I don't think it's going to happen, but it definitely could. And like we said earlier, this is one of the first teams since Oregon that Indiana is going to actually walk on the field, and they're going to be, lining up against talent that's equal or in many cases better than some of the talent that they have in position. So I don't see Penn State winning this game, but I do think there is a possibility if they get over there and turn the football over and get that crowd in the game and, get behind the sticks. I think that, Penn State can win this football game, but I just don't think it's going to happen.
Probably the best thing going for Indiana in this game is it's an early game. It's not a night game.
Yes, absolutely. Yep.
Number 7 BYU is undefeated in the Big 12, playing Texas Tech, who's coming off of their loss, or who has a loss. They're not coming off of it.
Right.
Texas Tech's 10.5-point favorite. I feel this is a win and you're in scenario for both these schools.
Yeah, I think so too. Like I said earlier, I think the Big 12 would like Texas Tech to win this game and then have BYU win the championship game. Then that's a lock for both of them.
Right.
I think if BYU loses this week and then plays, even if they beat Cincinnati in a couple weeks, because Cincinnati's sitting there with one loss too in the conference.
Right.
If BYU loses 2 times to Texas Tech, I don't think they're going to get into playoffs. I think that's the perfect scenario for the SEC to get the 5 teams in, is if BYU loses 2 times to Texas Tech.
I would have to slightly disagree. They could lose the conference championship by a little, because if the CFP is anything like it was last year, conference champions or conference championship games aren't weighted very high.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree. If BYU goes out and gets blasted, when I say blasted, let's say 3 scores, right, on Saturday, and then they come back and they only lose that Big 12 championship game by maybe a field goal late in the game or something that we all saw that's like, oh man, they kind of got screwed on that play or whatever. I could see it happening, but if Texas Tech goes out and beats them 2 times in a row, and or not in a row, but 2 times in 4 games, and beats them by 3 touchdowns or 3 scores twice, I could see them leaving BYU out in that instance.
Quick update: USF did just score. Doesn't look like UTSA is going to have 2 miracle games.
No, they're a much different team on the road than they are. Yeah.
The battle for the gavel: James Madison 7-1, 5-0 in the SBC against Marshall. 4-4, 2-2. Marshall's really kind of, I think they're starting to find their identity. James Madison's still a 13.5-point favorite.
I think James Madison rolls.
Yeah. If James Madison loses, elimination.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. The problem with James Madison is, they're going to beat the better teams in the conference. And their conference championship game is not going to be real great, because they're not going to be a great team that they're playing against. Unlike in the American Conference, you could still get what looks on paper to be a really good matchup. I don't think James Madison will have a team on the other side of that game that anybody's going to really respect at that point.
Yeah, I was listening to the Sunbelt Syndicate last night. They do a show every Wednesday night outlining the Sunbelt, and they were talking about that. Is looks like it's going to be Southern Miss unless that team just completely falls apart. And even then, Southern Miss doesn't have the clout to be able to push them over that hump.
No, I don't. I agree with you.
So, number 3, Texas A&M, undefeated against number 22, Missouri, who's got the 2 losses in SEC. Texas A&M's 6.5-point favorite. I feel this is a must-win for Mizzou to keep their very slim CFP hopes alive. But I think it's too much of a tall order to actually get them, and they get eliminated after this week.
Yeah, I agree. I think, if Bo wouldn't have got injured there in that Vanderbilt game and he was still playing quarterback, I think they'd have a shot to win this game. but I just don't think they're going to be able to handle Texas A&M with this backup quarterback. Although he has had a couple. They had a bye week this last week, didn't they? Missouri. I can't remember if they did or not. I feel like they did. So let's see. What's their record? They got 4 games left. So
now, let's see. Yeah, they had a bye.
They did have a bye. So
Yep.
they got a bye week. They're coming off. So now they got 2 weeks with this new quarterback to work him into the fray. So could they win a game? Yeah, anything's possible in the SEC. I just don't think they're going to.
Yeah. A game that probably nobody preseason thought was going to be a top 20 matchup, number 9 Oregon versus or at number 20 Iowa. I was big on defense. Oregon's still a 6.5 point favorite. We talked about this earlier. Oregon seems to be flying under the radar, and Iowa's basically in a must-win situation if they want any chance at a CFP elimination if they lose.
I think this is the game that Oregon could lose, and it's not going to hurt them that much.
Yeah.
Because going on the road to Iowa, especially if we get weather during that game, I think people kind of gave Oregon the benefit of the doubt when they not barely beat Wisconsin, but 21-7 wasn't really the score that anybody thought they would have.
Right.
But anybody that watched that game know. I mean, it was torrential rain, although it never rains in Autzen Stadium. They say it was definitely raining that night, and that affected their thing. And Dante Moore went down with the injury. So I think if Oregon was going to lose a game here, I think this would be the most respectable game to lose out of what they got left, which is what they have Minnesota the following week, USC, and at Washington. So you surely don't want to lose that last game. You don't want that at Washington to be your last loss of the season, or that's the thing that people are going to remember you on. So
yeah. And it could happen. Washington, it could happen. Washington's got that tricky offense and defense to work with. Yeah.
So I really think I think Iowa has a really good shot to win this football game on Saturday. But it wouldn't surprise me if Oregon wanted to. But I know one thing: the over/under's at 40.5, and man, it's going to be tough to get over that if it's raining.
Right.
Against Iowa.
Yeah. Upset potential. Number 14 Virginia, home against Wake Forest. Wake Forest took Georgia Tech to overtime, beat SMU, and then
got spanked last week against Florida State, though. I was not expecting Wake Forest to look that bad last week against the Seminoles.
You almost wonder if they were looking ahead to Virginia, getting ready for that one. And I know a lot of coaches, we're focused on here, but your players may say that they're focused, but they're looking at what's next on the schedule.
Is that game at Wake or?
It's at Virginia.
Yeah, I think Virginia's going to win that game. I really think Virginia's downfall is going to come against Duke.
Yeah.
The following game.
But the Wake Forest, I mean, they've played some really close games this year.
Yep.
And they've lost close games. So
they should have beat Georgia Tech. I mean, they technically did. One of these funny officiating things that occur here this season, and they end up losing that game. But they definitely should have beat Georgia Tech, and they definitely had some surprising games this year that they've won. So I'm not going to count it out, but I just think Virginia's kind of that, that cardiac team right now. They just keep coming back and winning. And, I thought Virginia might have trouble last week on the road at Cal. And was it Cal that they played last week on the road? Where did I think it was Cal. They ended up intercepting that pass late in the game to secure that victory. Pretty sure it was Cal.
Yes, it was Cal.
Yeah.
They beat Cal 31-21.
Yeah. And that was like a 3-point game, and then all of a sudden Cal threw that interception late in the game, and Virginia took it back to the house. I don't know. I just think Virginia's probably too good in this football game at home. If it was on the road, I might have a different thought process on, but I'm pretty sure Virginia's going to win.
Yeah. Quick update: UTSA did just score, making it an 11-point game now. So early in the second. So maybe they'll come back, make it a game.
They're a fun team to watch, man. My buddy and I, we love to watch the Roadrunners. So
yeah,
they're funny.
No.
They're a fun team.
Like Wake Forest, and speaking of Cal, both these teams are fighting for bowl eligibility. Both of them need one more win. Cal's going up against Louisville. Louisville's a 20.5-point favorite. Trap game for Louisville, looking ahead to Clemson, maybe?
I don't think so this year because, I mean, I would think they're looking ahead to Clemson because they want to beat Clemson's ass this year because they see Clemson's on the ropes. But yeah, maybe, but I don't think so. I think Cal had their moment in the sun earlier in the year, and I just don't see them going to Louisville and winning that game.
Yeah. I think maybe if it was played in California, there might be a better chance.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. And then my game of the week, and you might agree, Navy 7-1 at Notre Dame. If Navy's going to prove that they are the same team they were last year, they're going to have to prove it against Notre Dame in a better fashion than what they did last year. But Notre Dame is a 25.5-point favorite on this one. But a win will put them right back up there at the top, though, of the favorites.
Yeah, and the way that Notre Dame played, that's the problem that I have with this Navy team going into Notre Dame is the way that Notre Dame played Boston College last week. If Notre Dame would have went in there and dominated them 50-4, or 50-3, like what I thought they were going to do to Boston College.
Yeah.
But that game ended up 25-10. It was kind of a wake-up call. I can guarantee you Marcus Freeman is not going to have these guys overlooking Navy this week. And the problem with Navy is they cannot stop the run. And Jeremiah Love is the best running back in college football right now, and I expect him to have a big day. I put this as an alternative spread to 29.5, hoping that Navy would take it easy, Notre Dame would take it easy on Navy at the end and only win by like 28.
Yeah.
So, so that's what I did on my parlay there. I put Navy at 29.5, and hopefully Notre Dame will have a little bit of, maybe a bad fourth quarter, and Navy can throw up a couple, quick scores.
Yeah. If Navy somehow finds that magic that we've seen through college football throughout the years, pulls off the upset of Notre Dame not having a conference championship game, could that eliminate them from the playoffs?
Oh, if they lose to Navy this weekend, they're out.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any way that Notre Dame can get in if they lost to Navy. Or, honestly, I don't think there'd be any way that Notre Dame could get in if they lose to Pitt. What's that, the week after, I think? I think they play Navy this weekend and then Pitt next weekend. Pitt is on a bye week this week. So Pitt's going to be everything they've got put into this Notre Dame game. I think if Notre Dame lose either one of those football games, they're done. It won't matter. They'll be out.
Yeah. There's too little season left to recover, especially without a conference championship.
Right. And I'm pretty sure that if I'm not mistaken, Notre Dame still plays North Carolina State. I'm pretty sure they do, which, as we saw last week, could be very, very tricky team. Let's see. They play. No, I'm sorry, they do not. They play Syracuse and Stanford. Yeah. I'm sorry. I don't know what I was thinking there.
I mean, Stanford's logo kind of looks like the NC State.
Yeah, kind of, in a way, yeah. But they will not lose to Stanford. Notre Dame won't. But I think if they lose one of those two games, they're definitely out. There's no question about it. There won't be any coming back from that, which could put a team like Miami back in play.
Right.
A second ACC team or a fifth SEC team, or maybe even a fourth. If Iowa wins this week, back to them. They still got to play USC, Michigan State, and Nebraska. It's going to be tough to go on the road to USC. But if they could win out and be 10-2, that could be the fourth Big Ten team that gets in there.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things. But a lot of people are hoping chaos in the ACC, whether it's a G5 or, you know, a third or fourth or fifth SEC team, or, you know, a fourth Big Ten team,
Yeah.
or even maybe in that scenario, maybe even 3 Big 12 teams. I don't know exactly how. It hurts that Houston lost last week to West Virginia. Shout out to Rich Rod there. What a big win for him last week against Houston.
Yeah. Hey, Houston having a top 25 team and empty stands, that's a head scratcher there. I get out and support your team.
Well, yeah. Probably a lot of Houston fans, or a lot of people in Houston are either A&M or Longhorn fans. Though.
Right.
Yeah.
So we're going to circle back. Jim had the question earlier in the show. Let's talk LSU Bama. How we feeling? Bama 7-1, LSU 5-3, fresh off the Brian Kelly firing. Alabama 9.5-point favorite? Is this a trap game for Alabama?
Well, it surely could be. I don't think it's going to be. I know that the Weeks kids are still, one's doubtful and one's questionable on the defensive side. I just don't think LSU is going to be able to, you know, hold up to Alabama. But I do think that Nussmeier is going to have a much better game than what he's been playing. If he can not turn the ball over, you know, 3 times a game like he's been doing, they have a chance. But and the other thing is Alabama's running game is just not – it's just not at Alabama standards right now. So are they going to be able to, you know, run the ball better and force, you know, LSU to defend the run and not just sit back in zone and, you know, take Ryan Williams out of the game plan.
Yeah.
And you know, and force Horton or someone else to beat him. So I would love to see LSU win this game personally, just because I would love to see the chaos in the SEC, so the SEC's heads explode, you know. But I think Oklahoma has a better chance of beating Alabama next week than LSU has of beating them this week, in my opinion.
All right. And finally, this one here.
Well, wait, hold on. What do you think, Sam?
Oh, I actually picked Alabama, I believe, in this one.
Okay.
I think if it was played in LSU, I'd probably flip it.
Okay.
Take LSU at home. But I do think Alabama's in this, and that pains me. It pains me a little less now that Saban's gone from Alabama, because I didn't like the way Saban cried about the little guys getting their chances. I liked DeBauer, so it makes it a little bit easier to root for Alabama.
Right, yeah.
Not that Saban's a bad coach or anything. I just couldn't take the whining about it.
Right.
So.
Well, look, LSU still has very talented football players at, you know, the skill positions.
Yeah.
So if they can get something going, what's the guy's name that's the interim coach? DJ Durkin, I think, is the interim coach at LSU. He's a tough, hard-nosed, gritty coach. He could have them ready to go this week. We'll see.
We're about to find out if the Kelly effect is real. Notre Dame fired Kelly and brought in Freeman, and then you see how Notre Dame's doing. So
yeah, well, remember Brian Kelly actually left Notre Dame because he said they couldn't win a national championship there, and then you know, it's one thing to play the way LSU played this year. It's another thing for LSU fans to watch Marcus Freeman last year in a national championship game,
right?
With the coach who said he couldn't win at Notre Dame. So I think that really played. I think as much to Brian Kelly's downfall as his own personal, you know, whatever he was down there. I don't think he was really liked down there personally.
Yeah.
But Marcus Freeman, I think, was really the nail in the coffin for Brian Kelly and what he did with Notre Dame last year.
Yeah, and Kelly's probably relieved he doesn't have to do that accent anymore.
Yeah, I think he needs to get back up into a northern school and back to his normal roots there. LSU's a tough. It's unlike a lot of places in the country. You got to have the right thing there with with that whole situation down there in Louisiana. I mean, you saw the governor wants to get involved in who's going to be the coach. I mean, it's just crazyville down there.
Yeah.
So,
yep. Final game that we're going to talk about: San Diego State, the top G5 defense in the nation, going to Hawaii. Only reason I put this one in here: San Diego State 6.5-point favorite. Hawaii is always tough to play at Hawaii. It doesn't matter who you are, just because of the time difference. Does San Diego State have a chance to right the ship should they lose?
if they lose this game, I don't think so, because you still got that Boise State game coming up, and is that game is at San Diego State, I think, right, for Boise?
Yes,
yeah, so it's a little bit better than going to Boise. Is the quarterback for Boise out for the season, or just
it was alluded to that he's going to be out for a while? So
okay,
but
so he
Boise
might not
State,
be back.
Boise State's notorious for keeping their cards close to the vest and only giving away information when they absolutely have to. So,
look, I personally think San Diego State, given the points this week at Hawaii, is the lock of the week myself. I've watched Hawaii play because I'm up at 2:00 in the morning, and Hawaii's the team that's on, right? So, you saw what San Diego State did last week to Hawaii's defense. What's the kid's name? Egert or something like that at San Diego State, threw for 458 yards against or San Jose State against that Hawaii defense. And I just don't think that Hawaii is going to be able to move the ball very well against San Diego State. I think it's just going to be a tough movement there.
Yeah. And probably the best story to come out of Hawaii is their kicker.
Yeah, that kid is
learned how to kick on YouTube, got a Midwest school to give him a shot, and then makes his way to – I became a fan whenever they rushed him out against Stanford. No timeouts, rush out, kick it, no thought, just right through the uprights, beat Stanford to open the season. I'm like, yep, instant fan right there.
Yeah, actually, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that kicker is from the small school he went to was right here in Ohio. So, I can't think of the name of it off the top of my head, but yes.
At one point I knew it, but it's other information has kicked it out.
Yes. I can tell you where that school is in Ohio and Hawaii is a big culture change.
Right.
I can promise you that.
Well, as we wrap out our show, do you have any final thoughts looking ahead to this week?
No, I think that, you know what? I do have a little bit of thought. We didn't talk about Georgia. We have Georgia coming off of a Florida game that was a very physical game last week against the Gators.
Yeah.
A game they very well could have lost. I don't know exactly why Florida went forward on that second 4th and 1. I would have took the points. As soon as Georgia got that stop, the momentum swung in that game. Georgia was able to go down, score, and take the lead. And then obviously we had the catch that wasn't a catch that could have been a catch but Georgia also has to play Texas next week. And now you got this sandwich game of going to Mississippi State, a team that won their first SEC game, in 2 years last week against Arkansas.
Yeah.
I think this is a very dangerous spot for Georgia here. Coming off the game against Florida, looking forward to the game against Texas, and you're going to Starksville, Mississippi. I just think there could be an upset here. I'm not going to predict it. I'm just saying it could be.
Yeah.
It could be. And Mississippi State's not a terrible team. Like you said, they had Texas, 17 points in the fourth quarter. They had Texas up, until they made that comeback. So if I was a Bulldog fan, and since they're both Bulldogs, it'll be easy to say, I would be nervous. So you take that for whatever Bulldog you want to be. But I think Mississippi State could pull, maybe not the upset, but definitely a closer game than expected here.
Yeah. And we could go through and we could talk for another 2 hours on all the other schools. And I just picked out some of them. I definitely, if you're open to it, I definitely want you on next week whenever we do this and just keep the momentum going, try and build a following for this show and rival some of the other content creators out there.
Well, perfect. I hope I did a good job here, and I love to be on it. And I appreciate the inviting me on. I really appreciate it. So.
We do have one final question: prediction of Army-Navy game later this season.
Well, again, that's my son there. Here's what I predict. It'll be under 35 points. That's what I'm going to predict in that game for the over under. I'll be rooting for Navy. Family members that are, Navy men. So I don't really have any Army family in my life. I got Marines, I got Air Force, and I got Navy. So I'll be rooting for Navy. But as always, that game will be a hard-hitting, very low-scoring game, I would think.
Yeah, and I believe both teams already beat Air Force, so this is going to be the
will be the true commander-in-chief, or
the
commander-in-chief cup, I think is what it's called.
The crayon eaters versus the whatever they call the Army people.
Yeah, the weird thing about this, like, let's just say somehow Navy ended up getting through this gauntlet of Memphis, Notre Dame, and USF, and they don't even have to beat Notre Dame. They just got to really beat Memphis and USF. That Navy game would be the weekend between, because let's say they got the number 12 seed in the playoffs.
Yeah.
They would have to play their championship game. Then they'd have to play Army while the rest of the country was on the, and then they have to turn around and go on the road to potentially, we said it could be Georgia, it could be Texas Tech, it could be a plethora of teams there.
Yeah.
That would be a really tall ask for Navy to do so.
You got to wonder too if that is the case and Navy does get that G5 spot, maybe they play their second string that entire game and Army does walk away with it. Or maybe the pride of the Commander-in-Chief trophy, cats, maybe the pride of winning the Commander-in-Chief trophy makes them actually want to just go out and get a quick early lead and then play their second string so they got fresh legs.
Yeah, I think, look, the playoff was never made for Army and Navy to make it.
Right.
In this playoff whole thing, I kind of like, and I know it's a, tradition of Army Navy at the end of the year. I kind of almost like, why don't we have the Army Navy game as the game that kicks off college football?
Right.
On the week 0.
Better weather.
I like that better than teams like Iowa State and Kansas State going over to Ireland to play a football game. I mean, that would be an amazing scene. Army Navy to start every season. Then you could always have like a night game or something after it, or make that a night game. So it's a lot of tradition to change here. But I do think if Navy, and this might be one of the only years that Army or Navy is really in the playoff race this late in the season, personally. So I don't think it'll change just because what's the chances of it happening too often. But this year it definitely could, if Navy got there, it definitely would be a disadvantage for them.
Yep. I agree. And maybe we'll see it. I mean, they changed tradition whenever they put Farmageddon overseas. I mean, whose bright idea was that?
Yeah, but I don't know that I'd put Farmageddon anywhere near the Army Navy in terms of tradition, no.
Maybe not tradition, but rivalry. Probably better.
Rivalry, right? Yeah, but Army Navy is just such a traditional. I mean, there's very few games like it. Even Air Force Navy, Air Force Army is nothing like the Army Navy game. But we'll see if that's the problem that we have. That will be great news for Navy. I'm sure they'll be like, we'll play 3 games in a row. Doesn't stop us. So,
right.
I know those guys are tough, so they'll do it.
Yeah. Well, Todd, I feel that you and I could talk on for hours about college football and never make a dent in every story that could come across. And I really enjoyed this week. And if I didn't have another show to get to, I'd probably try and get some more information out of you. But we do have a Bronco Nation Live coming up after this. So those watching on Bronco Nation Updates on YouTube and the Bronco Nation Updates Facebook page. Actually, I don't think I'm in Bronco Face. But anyway, those of you watching for Bronco Nation Updates, we are about to get kicked off over there here in the next 10 minutes or so. So, Todd, I appreciate you coming on. I definitely want to do this more in the future. I've got other people lined up that wants to come on too, make it a true roundtable discussion.
That'd be great.
A night to its own where I don't have another show to run off to afterwards. So looking at either a Wednesday or a Friday night, probably most likely Friday, so we get that fresh perspective heading into Saturday's football games. So
Awesome.
thank you for coming on. This
Hey.
was a blast, and look forward to more.
Hey, thanks for having me, and go Broncos out there. And hopefully one day I'll get to come out and see the old blue turf for myself.
All right.
All right.
There's no atmosphere like it. I mean, well, I went to the Notre Dame game, and their fans were super nice too. And you can probably, if you ever been to a Notre Dame game, you could probably compare their fans to Boise State fans because they're very hospitable, unless you're San Diego State or Nevada.
Well, I just need them to wear the. I can't have them play on the blue turf and the blue uniforms. It really messes my ability to. If I come, they got to at least wear an orange jersey or something so I can depict them from up in the cheap seats, you know. But
one of my favorite Boise State games was after Fresno State complained about blue on blue. And so Boise State came out with orange on blue and absolutely curb stomped them.
It does get a little challenging sometimes on television where you're like, man, it's just it almost kind of blends in together. Sometimes it's like, oh my goodness, it's hard to tell who's, which players are. Now you never mistook Ashton Genty, so
yeah,
you know who that was. So
yep, all you had to do is look for the bodies flying around.
Exactly. All right, Sam. We'll see you next week or so, and it's been a pleasure.
Yes, sir. Have a good one, Todd.
Hey, thank you. Bye bye.
All right.